Welcome back to our podcast. This is episode 3 of Mispelled Memoirs.
Talking about sports. Very fun.
Today, we're talking about sports, we're talking about athletics, we're talking about ballet, basketball, and tennis, and our experiences growing up in these kind of sports environments.
Yes, with an official microphone. So we're moving up
Yes,
there.
moving up in the world, only up from here.
Yes, it's only
Yes.
going up, hopefully. We had good news from this weekend.
Yes, I got accepted to Stanford Symposium.
Yes.
I'm so excited. So I'm going to be presenting some research on May 4th. So
Yes.
Looking forward
and
to that.
I will be going
yes.
May 4th. Okay, so that's in 1 month.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Or
that's
Saturday.
Is that soon? What's April?
Like 6
2
weeks?
months.
Like 6 weeks, yeah.
Next month is April.
Yeah.
Not May.
Time is an illusion.
Yes. Okay. So we can start with sports. So we're both coaches. I do tennis coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've talked to you before about tennis, but I feel like the people who know me now know me for tennis, but all my life it's always been basketball.
Really?
Yes.
Wait, then why did you switch to tennis then?
We'll go into
Okay, we'll
that.
go.
Okay. Just starting with
Yeah, slow.
Yeah, coaching. So
Mhm.
do you have ballet this weekend, or when do you do
Yes, so I teach ballet on Sundays,
it?
which is like most convenient for me with my school schedule. I can like get all my school stuff done, and then I work on the weekends. And I teach like really little kids, and I love my job so much. Like I can't even describe. Like this weekend was just I was in such a good mood, and it was just like such a good weekend. And like I've been working with the kids now for like a year, maybe. A lot of them are 6 months for some of them, because they're like babies. And I can really see them growing, and it's like so cute. So
very nice.
it's very satisfying as a teacher. And I used to teach older kids, like more serious ballet, but
middle school or like older high school?
yes, like middle school mostly.
Nice. I teach tennis, so I started that I did high school tennis, and then my coach was part of the community who coaches like apart from high school. So then I asked him if I could be a coach, and then he said yes. So then I've been an assistant coach, and then I started just with the younger kids, so we do pretty young actually, but not as young. You guys are young for ballet.
Like babies, yeah.
Yes, and then we talked about like the age difference, because sometimes when you work with older kids, I'm like, oh my god, working with kids is so exhausting. But then you're still at the cute phase.
Well, it's the cute phase, but also like the emotional regulation phase. Like working with toddlers. Ooh,
oh, they're quick to cry.
They're quick to cry, but it takes a lot of emotional like knowledge or like sensitivity to be able to manage 10 toddlers' emotions at once to get through the 45-minute curriculum. But I feel like I've like mastered it now. Well, not mastered it, but
gotten better. You got more used to it. Yes. I started, I'm assisting, so I started doing just like 1 time a week, mostly middle school kids, like 5th grade, 6th grade. And then I just kept being asked to do more. So I did some adult classes, which was very interesting. And then
I'm like, you need to teach me tennis. Like, I want to learn.
But I'm like, okay, now that I'm used to it, I got through the whole thing. So I'm like, I can teach tennis to anyone, just like the fundamentals.
Yeah, teach me.
And all that. It'll be very fun.
Yeah.
We'll do a club activity.
Yeah.
If we can
Club
use
collab.
the tennis courts. It'll be one of our
my
de-stressing activities.
Actually,
yeah, very fun. Yeah.
We'll do that.
We're planning.
We're planning.
But, okay, so we talked about the age difference. So I think you said, like, I hear this a lot, emotional intelligence, right? Especially with kids, especially with, like, coaching, being with kids. I think now that we're past the age of, like, being coached, we're like, oh, we know what we liked and disliked.
Exactly. Like, we see, like, from our experiences when we were students, like, the teachers who taught us well and, like, helped us to get better and, like, improve not in the sport, but also, like, improve as people versus the teachers who, like, had a negative effect.
Yes, definitely. And I think we both kind of experienced that.
Yes.
But staying in the realm of just teaching other kids, we talked about, like, the age difference with kids and maybe with just different sports. Because this weekend, I also do soccer refereeing. And
she said basketball, soccer, she said tennis.
But I feel like there's a difference between the sports, right? Obviously, there's like sensitivity. Maybe ballet is more elegant. And then I feel like with me, just soccer and basketball specifically, it's like rough it up, like get up. You know, that was really it for me growing up. But tennis, I feel like, so there's a lot of differences between like team sports, individual sports. Tennis is more individual, but high school specifically, you have like a community around you, so you have teammates playing doubles, you have teammates playing singles next to you. And then soccer and basketball is more like competition, even within your teammates.
Really?
So there's like a lot of like specifications that go into team sports. I would say with like ballet, what would you say?
I think the competition I was so lucky when I was a teenager. I mean, I went to a very good ballet school, and like I'm so grateful for my ballet teachers. I want to like reiterate that. Like I learned so much from them, but I think that the competition like was almost non-existent. Like it was surprising because we were such a kind of not like elite school, but like for Bay Area, like we were really like 20 hours a week, like it was serious.
Yeah.
But we all were like really supportive of each other, and that was so rare. I realize now.
Yes.
But I think it was also because like the ballet training I went through was so difficult, so we all kind of like trauma bonded. Like you might think that a lot of people think that ballet is like super elegant and like beautiful and like it's okay, like, but like no, like it's the opposite of that. Like it's rough, like it's really tough, like mentally.
Is it like Dance Moms competition wise?
Dance Moms is almost like a parody in a way. I feel
like to the extreme. Dance Moms is kind of, but ballet is like it has some elements in there, I would think.
It's like extreme in other ways, but the ways that Dance Mom isn't, you know. So that's interesting. I don't know. Dance Moms is like I don't even think
hilarious.
About Dance Moms. Yeah. But
yeah, I think it kind of relates in that realm. When you think of like basketball specifically, I'm like, so say there's different positions. Sometimes you're competing with your teammates to get playing time, to get positions, to get all that, and then group sports kind of like that. So I'm like, okay, I've heard like dancing can kind of be like that, where you're kind of competing for a spot. Dance Mom specifically, you hear the Abby Lee Miller TikTok sounds like at the top of the pyramid.
Yep.
That's crazy if they'd actually have that. I don't know if you.
No, we didn't actually have that. But in a way, okay, like speaking of competition, got more competitive like when I went professional. I went to company, and then it felt like that. I mean, obviously there was no like pyramid, but it was like competition, like rough, like you look out for you.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's for another episode. But
it's like an audition process, I would feel like.
Yeah. But let's talk about like our experiences now as teachers, like what specific elements of teaching growing up that you implement now as you teach your kids.
I think I was very more of like a strategic kind of player, and then I was very like I would think of myself as an introvert, but on the court I'm the loudest person you'll ever meet. So I'm like, my first thing just as a player was always just like talking to everyone, and then as a coach just doing the same thing, really, because I think like my coach said while I was a player, he's like, you should be a coach. He's like, you're kind of built to be a coach. And then I feel like I kind of just do the same things. A lot of it's just like just talking with everyone, making sure everyone's on the same page, no one's feeling left out and all that.
And I feel like that's such a good skill, and like I feel like I feel like that energy, like, and it's really good, and to have that skill, and like you definitely embody that.
Yeah, especially with like teamwork sports.
Well. Yeah, exactly.
Done out.
Absolutely.
Ballet.
I think the main thing, I would say like creativity.
Oh,
like maybe not that like wasn't so much implemented by my teachers, but that's like one of the main things, because I mean I'm teaching like babies, and it's a little bit different than like when I was teaching like actual like real ballet curriculum, because like I feel like as kids, you know, ballet is more a motif for them to learn like bodily awareness and like coordination, which is so important when you're like 5.
Yeah.
So then by trying to teach ballet in a way that inspires them and like keeps them open for creativity instead of like, while basically trying to promote internal motivation.
Yes.
That's so much more effective, I feel like, than like teaching them like roughly, not roughly, but like teaching them strictly.
Yeah, I get what you're trying to say. Like, trying to say, like, you can connect your own, like, say you like this type of dance, this type of skill, like, go into that, and maybe, like, improvisation, I would say, with dance specifically. I would kind of connect that to ballet, yeah.
And especially when they're such little kids, like, I need them to improv because it helps them be creative.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important in school, you know, and in life,
Yeah.
like, creativity is everything, and we lose that as we grow.
Yeah.
And then also, like, gain that bodily awareness, too.
Yes, definitely, like, the basic fundamentals. I would say, like, when I grew up, I was pretty, like, I wouldn't say athletic, but, like, I got a feel of things pretty early. I wouldn't say I was really, like, a fundamental learner. I was really just, like, catch on and go. I'm like, oh, I know how to do this. I'll just go for it. But I'm, like, so in basketball, you know how there's, like, a shooting form and all that? Like, I never had the proper shooting form. Like, refs, coaches would all come up to me and be like, you have the worst shooting form I've ever seen. But I'm like, they're like, you make you make the baskets.
Yeah.
But they're like, that's insane the way you, like, play. But I'm like, yeah. I'm just catch and go.
Yeah.
So it's like having your own style to it, especially like for basketball specifically, like having your own moves, your own creativity. Because there's, like, I know in sports, there's very, like, strict regimes. Obviously, it's good to have fundamentals. But then, like, for basketball specifically, we have, like, play calling and all that. So specific plays, you'd be like, run this, do this action. So some coaches would be like, just, like, by the books. They'd be like, just every time you play for the 5 minutes that you play, do this every time. But then that doesn't really, like, spark that creativity or love for the game. Because at one point, I had some coach that was like, your only job here is just to play defense. So then whenever you get the ball, they're like, pass the ball. They're like, what are you doing? Like, why even try?
Yeah.
So then sometimes you, like, get in your head. Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't know that, like, they assign positions and that you can only do certain things. You're like, how does that work in basketball? Because, yeah, like, I mean, in ballet, you have, like, you're a quarter ballet, you're a soloist, or you're a principal, so you have, like, different roles in that respect. But how does that work on a game?
Yeah, so there's, like, different positions, obviously, in many sports, like basketball, soccer. Basketball, there's 5 positions: point guard, shooting guard, power forward, center. Center's the tallest. Point guard usually has the ball the most. So then those are the roles that we're usually, like, learn to live up. And then you learn on the court, right? You have this, like, big 3-point line, and then you learn point guards usually at the front, wings, and then people in the middle, right? So some coaches will be like, never leave that spot. They're like, what are you doing? So they'll have, like, the tallest person on the team, the center. If they go out, like, to the 3-point line, they're like, don't shoot the ball at all. You're tall. What are you doing? Why are you wanting to shoot, right? So there's a lot of, like, stuff with that, with basketball and, like, these hard, rigorous sports. A lot of people I know, it's tough out there. Yeah. Like, advocating for yourself. And then there's, like, you need to find the good coaches that are, like, believe in yourself and just be like, just try new things.
Yes, exactly. I think that's so important what you said also about, like, advocating for yourself in sports.
Yes.
Because I didn't learn that until it was too late.
I see in sports specifically, like, so many sports. I think I personally dealt with this crisis of confidence. Specifically, like, if you see it, I don't know how it works out in ballet, but, like, basketball specifically, I think my crisis of confidence, or I see it in other players, like, anytime I see it on TV and I see this player and these people are like, oh, this player's, like, should be on the bench, this player's not good anymore, or they're talking about, like, veteran players. A lot of them have experienced crisis of confidence, which I like to label it as, where it's basically, like, they hear from the critics too much, they no longer believe in themselves, they're just, like, going with the flow, right?
They're in, like, a valley in the line of life.
Yeah, you really gotta just, like, be up for yourself.
So how do you, like, what are some, like, concrete ways that you've learned to advocate for yourself through, like, these sports like basketball and tennis?
I think so. That happened during my sophomore year where I felt like I'm just, like, so, yeah, I had the coach, and then this coach was like, play defense, like, I don't really want you scoring. Whenever you get the ball, pass to our best player. Like, everything's set up around our best player, right? So many, like, teams I know are designed around this, right? And I'm like, what's the point? Like, you're not even getting your other players involved. You're not building as a team.
And then you can't, like, build each other up, because then it's only the focus is on one person. And then you're putting all your eggs in one basket as a coach.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's easy, like, when you see, like, championship teams, you're like, it's easy to defend because all you need to do is just knock out one player, and then you just, like, because there's a saying that's, like, you know, Steph Curry, like, the best player on the Warriors. If you're a team playing against Steph Curry, your coach's mindset is being, like, make the other players beat you. So it's just like take the ball out of Steph's hands and make the other players like work for it and actually like so you get the other team involved. So like the good players and the best captains out there, like Steph is such a good player because he gets his team involved.
Exactly. And I feel like in ballet too, like the best, I mean, it's a little bit different. Like, we don't really have team players. But the best kind of directors are the directors that, like, value each and every single person. Like, the back line of the quarter ballet is valued and appreciated. And then you have the best production in the end.
Yes. Okay, I think I kind of missed the question.
I forgot to. What are some concrete ways that you've learned to advocate for yourself?
Okay, I think advocating for myself was kind of tuning out the coach. Because, like, after the game, my dad would ask me, he'd be like, you were open, why didn't you shoot? And then I'd be like, because I knew he would, like, so there's, like, I'd say, if I say I got the ball and I shot it and I missed, my coach would sub me out. Really? That was the thing. Everyone on my coach knew it. Everyone on my team knew it. Everyone knew that if I shot a ball and they missed, like, the second you made a mistake, you'd be subbed out.
Really? I feel like that's so hard because it's like, there's no room for mistakes.
Yes.
And you're learning.
Yes.
And that's how you learn is through mistakes. Like, what does our statistics professor say? She's like, failure just means first attempt in learning.
Yes.
You can't learn without failing.
Yes. So in high school, that was like I was on varsity. I was the youngest kid there. And then this is what I'm learning. So like my sophomore year, I'm going into this with the same mindset. And I'm thinking like, oh, I can't try anything new. Like I got to be like just constrained and just like focus on this main best player, right? Because he centers his team. But it's like he was an old school coach. So it's like now being like just like going back into the system, being a coach myself, I'm like always encouraging people. I'm just like, even like on the court when I was the youngest, like I always say like I'm the loudest on the court. I would tell the best player, I'm like, shoot the ball. What are you doing? Because she was like, there's obviously the older kids who was like, so there's the older seniors. And then I honestly think the best player on the team was like the sophomore who was 1 year older than me. So she was kind of like shy, constrained herself. So my coach would center it kind of around the seniors. And then, like, give the sophomore more chances. But then I think she was in her head sometimes, too. So it wasn't necessarily the coach affecting her. I think it was her own mindset. But, like, me being the freshman I was, I'm just like, shoot the ball. I'm like, you're so good. Like, you should do this. So that was, like, the inner coach in me speaking.
Exactly. You were coach from the beginning.
I know. And then sophomore year, I was voting captain.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
So how was that?
So I was moving up.
She's moving up.
So I was like thinking to myself, I'm like, how in the world? But it was more, I think, because I always say like, I think of myself as like a very introvert, social, anxious person. And I never really thought it really with sports because sports came more naturally to me. It was just with like the coaches. Once the coach is there, I'm just like shut down. Some coaches. Other coaches are nice. Other coaches were so fun, very amazing. It was just like the last closing years. It was really sad to see like I had this coach who really kind of just shut me down. But in the process of just being like, I focused more of my time on my teammates and not listening to the coaches. So my senior year, I wasn't talking to the coach at all. Like, so that was me learning to like, not necessarily advocate for myself, but you hear a lot in sports, like, you need to have like a brick wall for like, you hear all the comments. If you think like professional sports, you hear like all the hecklers. Hecklers. Like you think like people shouting at you on the court and you need to think like real time. So people are just like, oh, just get over it. Like you need to build that mindset for yourself. So then being a captain, I was like, I focused more on my teammates. And then sophomore year was like, it was the same hard coach. There was like 10 seniors my freshman year. So it was like a brand new team my sophomore year. So I was like one of the only returners. And then there was like 2 returners. And then all the new players, I'm just like, I think I got to them. Like, personally, just, like, obviously just being fun and outgoing. And then just, like, I kind of spent a lot just warning them about the coach.
Oh, my gosh.
And I'm like, oh, this coach, like, you need to know these drills. If you don't know it, like, he'll say at the top of your head, what does this person do? And then we had the, like, after 2 weeks in the season, he's like, okay, everyone vote for who you want to be your captain. And I was voted. I'm like,
nice. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
But I feel like that says so much about, like, how influential coaches and teachers are when you're young. Like, especially like to have a coach like that where you have to like look out for like when he does this and this, like be like tiptoe around something like that. Like it's so like I've been in situations like that. Like, it's so detrimental when you're young. But like okay, you said something about like when you were a senior, you were like totally like ignoring the coach. Like, how is that? Because like, you know, I feel like if I did that when I was in like a ballet school, like that would not have gone. I would have been like kicked out of the school. It's like, how did that work for you?
I don't think I was necessarily like ignoring him. It was more so me kind of just like I wasn't putting myself in situations where I'd talk to him for too long and just like have that negative energy affect me and all that. And that time I was like, it's my senior year, whatever, like who cares, right? So the other girls, they were like good and all that, but I was a veteran. I was 4 years in. I was already the captain, so I'm like, I have some power here, so I'm just like, I'm gonna take control. So it was a lot of like, I had some experience being captain and all that, so I talked to the girls. I'm just like, okay, coach wants you guys to do this. I'm like, this actually works out. I wouldn't tell him in front of his face, right? Obviously, like, no disrespect to him, just talking about him or just like even being in his presence. Like, I would never try to disrespect him. I would mostly just like distance myself as much as I could from him. And then sometimes in the games he'd be yelling at me, but at that point, like my freshman self, I was used to it. He'd be like, pass the ball, and I'd score. So I'm just like, whatever, like it is what it is. Like I scored. I'm like, proof is in the points.
Were you ever like afraid of him, or like did you like distance yourself because you're afraid, or distance yourself just because like you're like, nah, I just like don't want this energy?
In senior year, because I didn't want that energy. I think sophomore and freshman year, it's just because I was afraid. Like,
that's a lot of growth, though. Like from having that fear of a coach to like being able to distance yourself. Like that's a really like so much growth there.
Just putting like your energy into new things.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I always hear, like, I think just, like, hearing about, like, he was the one who told me, like, I should be a coach. Because in the middle, like, I'd be like, bro, you're wrong. Like, do this instead. But I'm like, I had the backup of my teammates. I was a veteran. Like, I had some authority then. Before then, I felt like I had, like, no say, whatever. I think it was, like, I don't know, but now I think, like, trying to be a coach, one thing that always sticks out to me when I hear, like, coaches always say, like, the good coaches, college coaches, they say a coach can't give you confidence, but a coach can only take away your confidence. A coach can't give you confidence.
I think that's a good, like, saying. Because like, speaking of coaches, I mean, I'm getting into teachers now, but, like, I think the best teacher I had was my AP Chem teacher in high school. He always told us, like, I can lead you to the water, but I can't make you drink. And, like, that has stuck with me. Because it's, like, he can show us the path to, like, confidence or to, like, success in chemistry or whatever, academia.
Yeah.
But we have to ultimately take that step. And I think, like, that is so true in sports, too. You know? Like, a coach can break you down or can build you up, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it's you who has to develop that inner confidence.
Yes.
And, like, no one can, like, support you enough from the outside because it has to come from, like, inside. So.
And then just, like, thinking of that mindset just, like, as a player. Because I think of, like, you hear the saying, obviously, with, like, relationships, if they wanted to, they would.
Yeah.
I think that's so true, even with sports. Because you think about, like, obviously, it's hard to, like, make these teams. Like, it might be, like, financial or it's just, like, traveling, something like that. But honestly, like, I think about, like, if you really wanted to be a really good player, you'd take the time to wake up early, to, like,
discipline.
Exercise. Yes, it's a lot of discipline. It's a lot of, like, when you think of practice, like, I realized later, the practice for high school specifically, it was, like, say, after school, the real practice was, like, going to the gym and working by yourself. Because during, like, when you're with a group, it's more just, like, going over drills. You have to really, like, at, like, some level in middle school and high school, which I hope, like, one day if I get to coach them, I'd say, like, I'd really stress, like, if you want to work on these skills, you can't rely on, like, a coach or a team. You really have to, like, do it yourself.
Exactly. When I was a ballet student, like, we had the class and rehearsals, but I would always, like, every day, like, do the ballet drills or, you know, whatever, do the work by myself. And that was what made me improve. Yes. Not being in a room with, like, 60 other girls. Yeah. You know, being in the back line of the quarter ballet. Like, what made me improve was doing the work on my own. Yes. And I think, like, that extends to any sports or even especially academics as well. Like, no one's going to do it for you. No one's going to help you. Like, if someone helps you, I think also if someone helps you, like, you should take the opportunity, like, and be so grateful because, like, nobody will help you. And if they do, like, that's a very, like, very rare, and, like, you should be so grateful for the opportunity. Anyways.
Yeah, but it's good. It's, like, relating to, like, the intention. If the intention's there, like, you already want to work on yourself, you know, like, the studying's or, like, working out is already going to benefit you because you're already going in with the right headspace.
Exactly.
And then if you're in a good mindset, like, it's going to reflect in your work later on.
Exactly. Mindset is everything. Like, you know, there are so many opportunities in ballet, like, to be discouraged, or you're like, someone doesn't like you, or, like, a director or a ballet teacher, like, you know, doesn't think you have nice turnout or feet or whatever. These are important, like, things in ballet, that you have high arches and that your hips are, like, flexible. But ultimately, like, that's just one person's opinion, and you have to be the one to put in the work anyways. So you have to be the one to develop your own inner self-confidence.
Yes.
Nobody can give that to you. I even know, like, I feel like some of my, like, peers that were dancing, I mean, I didn't dance with them, but that were, like, older than me. Like, I knew of them. You know, like, our teacher really loved them. But then because she, like, showered them with so much, like, all the time they always got the role.
Yeah.
Or things like that, and she showered them. Well, I mean, it was complex, but, like, ultimately, like, they were the best. Then they ended up, like, not being as successful in that realm because maybe because they didn't develop that inner strength.
If you're just, like, obviously always over validating people don't, it's like you need to be humble.
Not even, like, you need to be humble, but then, like, they don't have the opportunity to validate themselves. And then, like, what if the next environment that you go into, someone doesn't like you? Like, that's really difficult. But
yeah, I mean, I didn't ask too many ballet questions, but I think relating to the sports, it's a lot of, like, inner confidence.
Exactly. And that's really, like, what I want to instill, even, like, in my, like, young kids at a young age, like, that inner creativity, inner confidence, because when you can create something in dance, like, that's yours and you feel confident about it, like, create a piece of choreography or, like, do a variation or whatever, that's, for me, what I think of when I think of, like, real inner confidence. Is the ability to do that. And, like, even I mean, obviously at 5 years old you're not doing a variation, but
I mean, you're starting early though.
Starting early.
You're getting that influence in early.
Yes, exactly. That influence early is, like, so important for their emotional, social well-being.
I think it's, like, with the younger, most sports are pretty good about it. I think once you start getting to rigorous, like, high school, middle school, it's when you meet, like, the more coaches who are very just, like, straightforward, will tell you. So I think it is part of, like, you have to build, like, a mental brick wall, which like, you'll hear a lot. I don't know in ballet.
Or, like, I feel like from, like, my experience, like, having coaches that were, like, very strict and, like, told me as it was, like, that was very valuable. But, like, what wasn't valuable was, like, when coaches would like, break me down in a way, like, that wasn't really necessary. But, like, I really did value, like, being, like, honesty about my work, because I mean, it's not always going to be good, or, like, criticism in the end, like, like, honest criticism was good, but I feel like, you know, when a teacher sometimes took out their own frustrations on me, like, that's where that line was kind of crossed.
But I think now as a coach, we need to know, like, where to draw the line too.
Because I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's an American thing, but I feel like a lot of coaches, even, like, professors in America, tend to really sugarcoat their criticism, and I think that can actually be quite detrimental to a student, because then they think, oh, like, I'm so amazing. You know, it's the same thing. Like, there's harm in over-validating a student as there's harm in undervalidating. Like, they're similar.
I think I had more of the undervalidating, but I think with like I think I had some compensation because my parents, my teammates were great, and they're just like, oh, you're so amazing. Like, people who were like, who weren't necessarily my teammates, but at school, they're like, you do this, and they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm just like, I'm always, like, in my head, I'm always thinking, like, one step, like, oh, I know my coach is gonna say this, so, like, why even try? But at some point, it was just like, I think it was just like the mindset of time. And it's just like, I'm a senior, I'm gonna just do whatever I want at that point. But I wish I learned that earlier.
Me too.
But when you think about, like, sports, have you watched, like, Cobra Kai or The Karate Kid? Have you heard the phrase, So it's basically like the karate kids, and it's basically like the saying that like karate is life. So it's basically like your sport is like a reflection of life.
Yeah,
and I've heard that a lot.
Yeah, but I used to, like I have a lot of friends when we were growing up. We'd have like on our Instagram bio like ballet is life.
It really is though. But when you think about it at that age, you think about like, oh, that's what I'm doing 24/7, obviously. But later, it's just like the lessons that you learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
I think my coach, he was very like the coach that I didn't like. He said like, oh, basketball is life. Like everything that you learn for that. At some point, I'm just like, why does everything have to be like a life lesson?
Yep.
But I mean, there's some things bits and pieces you can take away. It's mostly like what you learn about yourself and how you learn to handle pressure.
And I feel like even like every single coach, even the coach like that, like the maybe pedagogue, I would say like ballet pedagogues that were like quote unquote like not as good, or the ballet pedagogues that like really didn't like me or stuff like that. Like I learned so much from them. So like there's a lot of value I think in having teachers that don't like you, because then you can
learn how to like deal with them.
You learn how to deal with it, and you like in a sense you also can be humbled. What I mean by that is more so like you can see that you don't actually need that validation from them.
Yes,
and that is
self-advocating.
Exactly,
yes,
self-advocating.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean at the same time you also need professors who like see the good in you and see potential in you. Like they're both equally valuable, and I'm not saying that you should get professors or
you should
teachers
seek out
that don't like you at all. Like no,
I know, but it is kind of a form of rejection therapy. But at that age, you shouldn't really go out seeking it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's tough. It's tough. I feel like there's a high chance you will get it. But if you've grown up, I think if you've grown up over validating. In an over-validating environment, maybe change your environment. I wouldn't say necessarily seek rejection, because it's tough at that age. Middle school, high school, it's so tough. You got so many things going on. Prefrontal cortex isn't developed until 25, right? Until this age.
I'm thinking about that. Like, how much more does my prefrontal cortex develop right now? Like, I'm almost 22 right now, so yeah. But anyways, I think that. Though I don't know, I feel like low-key I disagree, because I feel like by seeking out like teachers that don't validate you and like don't like you, then that's like so valuable, because
I feel it's the extremes. If you just, but it takes a step to like realize you're in this over-validating environment, because it's so fun being on this high at all times, but you have to realize at some point like maybe time for like rejection therapy. I would say if you're maybe in this like school for ballet specifically, maybe for example, and then you're like, oh, this teacher is like always giving me this like I'm guaranteed this, maybe I'm not even like trying to take the effort, maybe like try out for something.
Like there's so much beauty in the struggle, so you can learn so much from struggling, and like also I think that helps develop your own internal intrinsic motivation, which is vital, like absolutely vital. So having like undergoing the adversity and like fighting through and getting it anyway, like that's so satisfying, and that's like where true self-confidence can be built, like when you have that adversity and overcome it, not like through things being given to you.
So I would say my experience is a lot from basketball, but I'm kind of known down for like tennis, which is funny because I think tennis is
funny. Wait, so when did you switch from basketball to tennis?
So I grew up playing like softball. I was a pitcher for softball. My dad was like, like the football quarterback. He was like, he wanted me to be the top role. That's I was a softball pitcher, and then eventually 7th grade I was like, I don't want to do softball anymore. I want to focus on basketball. And then quarantine, I wanted to learn to play tennis. Tried out for the team, got it, and then I got the job as a tennis assistant last year. So I kind of just stopped basketball, and then I kind of had like a break from basketball. I'm like, like I need to get over basketball, but I'm like, I don't want to like leave my love for basketball, because it's just so fun. Like I had so much fun, but I don't want to let the negative experience overrule the positive. I think I ended on a pretty good note though, with like senior year just being like, whatever, I'm gonna do this my way.
yes, exactly. Well, I think
we learned a lot about like coaches specifically.
Exactly.
If we're going to talk about teachers later, maybe in another podcast.
For sure we will.
But a good ending note on just like having self-confidence in yourself.
There's beauty in adversity, beauty in the struggle.
And we keep going back to rejection therapy. I mean,
It's
honestly,
so,
yeah.
Like, it's so important. I will say also, I don't think I mentioned this in our rejection therapy episode, but when I was applying for company jobs, it was, like, during COVID. So, like, not a single ballet company was open. I literally sent my audition video to no less than 50 companies around the world. 50! And I got every single one was a no. Every single one was a no. Oh, my God. So, but now, like, looking back on that experience, like, that was, like, one of the best gifts ever, because getting 50 no's and 0 yeses, like, when that was the one thing I wanted more than anything, was so valuable, because now, like, I don't really care when I apply for things, and I just apply, and there's, like, and then, like, for example, I got accepted to Sanford Symposium, like, well, specifically Bay Area Honors Research Consortium, Honors
not ballet related.
Yeah, not ballet, not Sanford related, but hosted at Sanford, but you know, those kinds of experience of rejection were the most, the best teachers.
Yes, in the moment it might not feel good, but, like, when you look back at it, you're just like, hey, I survived. Like, hey, this is how I responded. Hey, now I have this. Like, look how much I can grow from this. Like, I have the potential to do it just as well again.
Exactly, growth.
Yeah.
The seed doesn't sprout in, like, perfect environment. Like, that's a bad analogy. I'm trying to think of a better analogy.
I heard. You know? I remember that saying.
Yeah.
We'll see if I can find.
Yeah, we'll link it in the comments. We'll talk about it next episode. But
yes, a lot of self-confidence.
Yeah.
Self-love.
Just
finding
strength.
Finding your own creativity, especially your own, like, personal connections to anything that you do, because it really matters what you're passionate about.
Exactly.
Not letting other people knock you down. Not letting them getting their negative energy. Like, protect your peace. Protect your energy.
Protect your energy, exactly.
But yeah, sports is life.
Sports
you can
is
learn
life. Ballet's life. All right, we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening.
Yay.